Okay, I think Professor Ahmed, if you can start.
Okay, welcome to this special webinar on cybersecurity, hacking, and how to protect yourself. And before we start, this webinar is brought to you by Young Professional Society and STEM Matters. And our focus is on leadership, communication, and innovation. Just to in terms of hacking and security, it's obviously very important. Just tell you about a personal experience. My wife once got her personal details stolen, and the person who stole the details, she went on to do lots of shopping at B&Q, all the big superstores, and within about a few weeks, she racked up a bill of about £20,000. Now, every time we try to approach the banks and say, it's not us, what's happening, do something about it. We went to the police and nothing really got sorted. And then we got these debt collectors saying, oh, you owe us this much money, you're going to come and take your possessions and sell them. So my wife was under a lot of stress as a result of her identity being stolen, and really never really got around to resolve the problem other than saying to the debt collectors, if you want to come, feel free to come and we'll just call the police here because you've got the wrong people. But she kept getting pestered and pestered and pestered by debt collectors. It was such a stressful time. So I'd like to know how to protect my identity and my identity of my wife and my children with this cyber security and hacking issues. So Ranjbar Balisane, he did his PhD at University of Oxford in the same area. So I just want to kind of ask him to tell us a little bit about himself. How did he get into this subject? And what is it that interested him? And what are the challenges that are coming up in this field? Ranjbar, down to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So if I go to the PowerPoint slides and kind of go to like death by PowerPoint slides series. I've always been interested in security. I've always been interested in computers, ones and zeros. I've had a curious personality since my childhood, so I've always been experimenting with new things, with trying out stuff that I haven't done before. And to be perfectly honest, when I came to the UK initially, I couldn't speak much English. So the only friend I had was a computer. So when I was in school, I couldn't speak to the other kids. So the thing I used to do is go and sit down on a computer and try to bang the keyboard and just type things. Sometimes it was just kind of just stuff I would write, and sometimes it was codes that I would write. So that's where it started. And then through chats and so forth, I got to get close to my community. At the time, there was no Facebook back in 1999 and 2000, where modems were around. So I was on chat, like on the chat rooms on the web, connecting with people from my own community, because there was not a big community of Kurdish people within where I was at the time. And slowly I got to become admin for chat rooms, and then I got to know minor technical things, and then I started designing websites. And as I was designing websites, some of my websites was getting hacked, so I had to find out how they were hacked and how hacking is done. And that's how I mainly got into the field and area. And then slowly but surely I got into the habit of actually trying to figure out how it's done, and so forth. So I've been a hobbyist for quite some time before I went to the university and did that. And initially I started doing a medical degree because in my community that's what was popular, go and do medicine if you got the grades, rather than pursue your hobbies and what you love. To be perfectly honest, I did love medicine as well, but my true love was computer science and security in particular. So when the first ethical hacking course was opened for a bachelor's degree, I immediately left medicine and when I did that, and I graduated top of my cohort. But prior to going into that course, I was really into hacking and security and so forth. And when I'm saying hacking, I mean ethical hacking. I don't mean the bad kind of hacking. I mean, things that are within legal boundaries, nothing illegitimate. Just to be very clear on that. So yeah, so this is my background. I was to share the PowerPoint slides that I've prepared. Let me take this to the screen. And yeah, share that. Okay, so one of the terms that I thought, I'm just going to go directly to it. My PowerPoint slides are quite boring, with apologies. I'm more about content rather than shows, so don't expect many shows here. so to start with cybersecurity, for a long time in the security arena, people were trying to isolate the issue of security to be kind of computer security or information security, and it isn't as such, because security is not just about ones and zeros. It's not about just coding and functions. You can design the most secure system in the world, but if somebody willy-nilly gives out their password or writes it down on a piece of paper and sticks it to their computer, doesn't matter what security measures you have in the background, it's not going to prevent it from being hacked. So security is basically cybersecurity in kind of involves three things, like people, processes, and technology. So people, you need to educate the user. People need to be aware of what's going on from a security point of view, and to have the right level of education and to be trusted as well. So one of the major threats in the cybersecurity arena comes from insider threat. By the way, I'm going to go to juicy bits later, just for the people that we have in Facebook as well. We will be talking about hacking as well, but I would like to give a good background about what cybersecurity is before I go into that. And as I go on about hacking, I will be telling you about each step and where you will be breaching legal lines, and don't do it. Don't try it at home. So the way it works is basically, with cybersecurity, you've got people that, you need to think about people. Code doesn't work in isolation. There's people are using this code, and for devices to come to you, there's a process. And as you go into the cybersecurity field, you need to think about the fact that you can't just you are limited with what devices you have available to you, with how much money you have available to you to make yourself and the company you work for secure, or the household you work for, like, do you work for secure? So cybersecurity is a mixture of these three, the processes and so forth. It's a very big area. I mean, there is no way you can cover it with a seminar or two if you were to go in depth into what cybersecurity is, and to get a very good grasp of what it entails, because it goes all the way from a philosophical point of view to an economical to a legal. It involves all of that, and that's what cybersecurity is about. But there's a CIA in the cybersecurity arena, and that is its main goal is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It's important for the confidential information to remain confidential, and people who are not meant to look at it to look at it. So it's crucial to maintain confidentiality. And it seems like most of the data that we have, if we don't have some way or mechanism to ensure integrity and provide some provisions for integrity of data, then the data becomes useless. We can think about banking, for instance. If the numbers are not accurate, then that's it. And availability as well, like you need to access your bank account now. You're not going to rely on your bank if it's not available when you want them to be available. I mean, it does happen from time to time. You get downtimes, but generally people expect systems to work the way they should. So before I go into the hacking, why should you go into cybersecurity for the youngsters who are interested in cybersecurity? Why would you be, why should you pick that? So for first one is like high employment. There's a lot of if you just search any job search engine online, you will find there's a lot of cybersecurity jobs out there. So high employability and high employment. And the thing is, good salaries. I've got friends who work for the likes of Facebook and Google, and their first salary is something about 90K. Chief information security officers get, if they have 8-year plus experience, they expect it to be the salary to be around 180K, from anything from 130 to 180K. The thing that does it for me, to be honest, is the challenging part. It's actually really, really challenging. One of the things that interested me in medicine, I thought it was really challenging, and it is, don't get me wrong. But personally, I think computer science and cybersecurity is far more challenging, because not that you have a code that you need to secure, you need to ensure that the processes that you have, for instance, obtaining a device for the company you work for, that process needs to be secure too. Then you need to make sure that the people within that company is secure too. And you are in a constant fight with bad guys, with black hat hackers. Black hat hackers are hackers that are bad guys, and you got white hat hackers who are good guys. So for a hacker to hack your system or the company that you work for, they need to find one problem for them to get in. And that problem could be a person that is, is not very sensible and responsible or educated enough with their credentials and their computer security within that company. It could be a single process in which you obtain devices, say routers, switches, or even computers. If somebody was to target your company and to come and offer you some computers to sell it to you at a discount, but all these computers are infected, then yes, I will sell you a computer like £300-400 cheaper. I'll get your bank account later. So it's a very good deal for a bad guy. So that's as far as process go. And then the code or the systems that I'm implementing or the code that I'm writing for the company needs to be secure. So I need to, as a cybersecurity officer in a company, I need to make sure that I take into account all fields and all angles of attack. And for a hacker to be able to hack me or my company, they need to find one problem. As I said, that problem could be just somebody who is very happily, they get a phone call and they're more than happy to give out their password. And not necessarily their password. For instance, there's a nice paper about, password recovery being the new method of authentication. So one thing that people take lightly is the recovery information that you provide, which in essence is actually another password. Because if you forget your password, then you can log into your account through your recovery means, meaning, your father's maiden name, the street you grew up on, your nickname or your pet's name. And people are very careless with these things. Like if anybody talks to you after 5-10 minutes, you are more than happy to give out your pet name or where you grew up or what was your nickname when you were little. So these things, and then as far as birthdays goes, they are very easily obtained. I mean, all what I have to do is just go look at your Facebook or your friend's Facebook, not even your Facebook. Look at your friend's Facebook and see when they celebrating your birthday. Even if you don't celebrate yourself, somebody out there is going to come and say, hey, happy birthday. So I can obtain your date of birth through that. One thing that people seem to forget in terms of hacking is that if somebody wants to target you, if they are smart and they've been in the field long enough, they are less likely, they are unlikely to come to you as first point. they're most likely to go to your friends and relatives. Because if I was to send you a link as a stranger, you are highly unlikely to open it. So on your Facebook, you've got 100 friends. And it's easy for me to go and try to hack these 100 guys and fail, and then try the next one because, you know, they don't get suspicious. And even if you get suspicious and move on to the next guy, than come to you directly, because you are one point. And if I fail with you, you're going to go on your guard and I can't get to you again. But if I was to be able to make it to your cousin or your brother or your sister or anyone, and then send you something bad or malicious, you're more likely to open it from your brother and sister. So that this people are, to be perfectly honest, the reason I'm going on about this is because people are the main problem when it comes to security, and people are not the problem. It's the way that we've designed computers, the way that, and it's a very long, very hard problem to solve. It's the way that computers being designed that made people the problem. But whether you like it or not, right now people are the problem till the architecture or the underlying technologies that computers rely on change, and it is going towards that. To be honest, I may shed some light onto that later on to see how some of the underlying technology are about to change. And so the other reason to get into cybersecurity, because it's like it's a wide range of careers. Like within the cybersecurity, you've got technical people, you've got sales people, you've got management people. You know, you can go into the legal part of cybersecurity and what that entails. You can go into kind of, if you somebody like me, like, you know, get on with the ones and zeros, just go do that. So there's a lot of fields to cybersecurity. So even when you come into cybersecurity, like somebody with my background, who's mainly technical, I can easily go into sales now, or just focus on management only. I don't need to stay within writing code. So it's versatile. The other thing I would say in terms of, you know, careers and why would you go into it is, usually people ask me like, yeah, do you enjoy what you do? And my response is like, you know, imagine David Beckham, you know, playing football, but age not affecting him becoming less efficient at his work. In fact, the older you grow, the more you interact with the field, the better you become, the better professional you become at the field. So with cybersecurity, if you're really into it, then, you know, I would say stick to it, because if it's your hobby and it's your career, and as time goes by, you only become better and better at it, then you may as well. And the other thing, the last thing for me, that is, it's the flexibility. I love the flexibility. I mean, at the moment, I'm living in Iraq and I work here. While I was living in the UK, I was getting lots of jobs from Iraq, and I was, you know, making a good money from that. And even when I'm in Iraq right now, I'm getting quite a few jobs from the UK that are cybersecurity related. So one of the main things is the flexibility, and I love that. For me, that is a really, really big part of my career. It's very flexible. I can be in Iraq and work for a company in the UK. I can be in the UK and work for a company in Iraq. I don't need to have a 9-to-5 job, for instance. Right now, I don't have a 9-to-5 job. I have a job. I'm a permanent employee. I may get a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning, or I may get a phone call at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But I don't need to be there 24/7 or 9-to-5 to do things for what I do at the moment. So it's very flexible, place and time-wise. So that's the other thing. So getting into the interesting bit, and that's hacking. So in order to tell you how to protect yourself, one needs to know how hacking is done. Now, I'm not going to give any hints for youngsters to go and try it here, but I'm going to explain the steps of how hacking, or the phases of the hacking is done, so that you know, or you can identify and recognize them. So hacking is very much like burglary, sadly, if I was to put it, right? And that is, you know, when somebody wants to get into a house, before they get into that house, they're going to probably walk around that house a couple of times to see how many windows they have, to see what kind of doors they have, to see what time they are in, what time they are out, So this is the first step. This is what we call reconnaissance. This is actually the most crucial step in hacking. So most of the time, when you get a penetration testing job, you know, whereby a company comes and pays you to go and check their security, see if their, you know, training, user education, or their new system is working. The first thing you're going to do is go do reconnaissance. And to be honest, sometimes it's all over at this phase, because while I'm trying to figure out what software you are using, you know, what device you're using, what doors you have, I may come across a door that's unlocked. And if I find a door that's unlocked, then, you know, all bets are off. You know, I get in. I don't need to break the door. I don't need to make a special advanced key. And this is how often it's done. It isn't like what you see in the movies, whereby, you know, somebody's sitting in front of a computer and, you know, all alerts go, you know, wacky, and then, you know, you get in. No, you just find that somebody was careless with the password, or you find people's names and pets. So the way it used to be, and it still is, you know, it's most likely your password is your son or your daughter's name, your girlfriend or boyfriend or fiancé or wife's name, or husband's name, or their pet's name. You know, your date of birth is probably all over the place. So in the reconnaissance place, where I'm trying to gather information about the company or the person. So say, you know, if I was to go for Professor Ahmed, then, you know, just going on Facebook, going onto his kids and relatives account, I'll probably gather enough information to be able to do things. And at this point, I don't need to go any further. I don't need to do the scanning and gaining access and so forth. You know, that's it. I've done it. So if, and that's very useful. So knowing what kind of service you are using, knowing what kind of, you know, how difficult is security, you know, why sometimes if you can actually just walk, like if an office has a very poor lock, even if the door is like 10 centimeters thick, that lock is poor. I may not be able to break the door, but I can easily break the lock. So you know, that is something. So reconnaissance is at the heart of it. So trying to gather as much information as possible about the target that you have. And then the next step comes scanning. And scanning is maybe like port scanning. We're talking about here, whereby you scan every door and window on that particular computer, which we call ports in the computer language. And you want to see what's behind them. And as you do the port scanning, you find out what service is running, and if there's a particular service that's running and it's outdated and it's not been updated, it's an older version, for instance, and this is what is the case more than often, is that somebody installed a particular service, they either did not set it up properly, they set it up with the default username and password, which is always change the default username and password. So that's one of the takeaway things. Never ever keep the default username and password, you know, for things that you get, regardless of what it might be. So at the scanning phase, if I'm scanning somebody's Raspberry Pi, for instance, and they're using Kodi, then the default username and password is OSMC for OSMC, and then the user is OSMC, and there you go. You know, you don't need to do anything advanced. You know those. And these things, to be honest, the reconnaissance, the scanning, it's not just useful for the hacking field and career, it's also good for life. Like if I'm going to go for a job interview, I'm going to do my reconnaissance and I'm going to try to do scanning. So I'll try to read about that particular company on their website to see what they have to offer. And if I find an employee or an ex-employee from that company, then I'll get in touch with them and say, look, you know, you used to work for these guys. I want to work for them now. What do you think they're looking for? What is the thing that they value most? So it's not just hacking. In fact, like the skills that I've picked up for hacking in my life have been very, very beneficial for my, you know, personal life. And one of the other things I like about hacking is that it became your personality becomes a problem solver and a critical thinker, because these two are really crucial to become a good at hacking. So this is the other thing. So yeah, so scanning, you scan the service. Once you find out what service is running in the background, then you try to gain access. You try to see how hackable is that. There are multiple places that you can find out information that are readily available. And then, the other two steps are quite obvious. Basically, once you've gained access to somebody's computer or server, then you'd like to maintain access to go back to see, get updates. And then after that, make sure you don't get caught. So clean your tracks and corrupt logs, leave stuff behind that will delete your footsteps and footprints. So that's what ethical hacking is about. So it's very challenging because no two computers are the same, just like no two humans are the same. No two computers are the same. Whenever you go to one computer and you get something done, then the next one is a challenge. Whenever you have an incident response, again, it's a challenge because no two incidents are the same when you go and investigate them and so forth. Things you need to do, are pretty obvious, but you'll be surprised at how many people don't follow them. Now, I don't believe it should be that way, but sadly it is that way. And that is, you shouldn't use the same password everywhere. Try, like, for the things that are highly sensitive, ideally for everything, but based on papers that were published like back in 2015, an average user has about 20 accounts. So to say you have 20 different passwords, that complex password, is ludicrous. It's not realistic. But for things that are very sensitive, have different passwords. Try to implement two-factor authentication for things that are sensitive. So use your password alongside getting an SMS on your mobile phone. If I know privacy is a huge thing, and I value privacy greatly. It's a basic human right for a good reason. But most of us, like when we use Facebook, we already use Messenger and whatnot. So we're already giving them our phone numbers and all of our contacts. So use two-factor authentication using your phone. There are devices that you can get for things that are highly sensitive. There are devices that you can get on Amazon that will help with two-factor authentication, like FIDO and other tokens that you can use. So use complex passwords, update your system, because the reason why updates come through, it isn't just because Microsoft or Apple or whoever wants to make your life difficult. It's simply because they found a vulnerability, they found a way that you can be hacked, and they've patched it most of the time. Sometimes it's just performance enhancement, but more than often is actually the updates are to make you more secure. Don't use obvious passwords. Add something that people can guess. So if my password is basically my name, but it comes with some complex number at the end, it's long enough, but yet it's complex. So they usually tell you not to use dictionary words, but dictionary word on its own is bad, but dictionary word mixed with some numbers and letters and special characters is very good for a password. So these are the things that you need to be aware of. Try to maintain privacy, protect your privacy very, very good. It's not just for your private to be private, but also, as I said, like if I'm targeting somebody, and I wouldn't do that, but if I was to target somebody, the way that people do it is they target your friends to gather information about you. Because if they were to target you for the first instance and you become aware of an attack taking place, then you are highly unlikely to be hacked, because you're going to be on your toes. But if I was to go and try with your friends, then you are less likely to be alert to what's going on and you'll be the target. So in terms of like your friends list on Facebook, everything else, make them private. You post, make sure that it's only posted to the people that you want to post it to, rather than post it to the world. Anything you do on the internet, be it a private, late night chat that you send to a friend, be a photo or a text message, nothing is private. So whenever you send a message in private to a friend, just send it as if you are sending it to the whole world. Sadly, I get in my community, I get women calling me saying, look, I've got a Snap account, I've got a Snapchat account, I've got a Facebook account, I've sent some private photos to a friend of mine. Now my account has been hacked and I don't want these photos to be released. And my first response to them is that, look, if you send a photo through a private means on the internet, expect it to be on the internet for everybody to see. So if you don't want everyone to see it, then you should really be very careful to what you send to people and what you share with people. The other thing I'd like to say about this is that, like, you know, often I get, like, on a weekly basis, I get 2 phone calls at least about, can you hack a Facebook? Can you hack Facebook? Because an account has been stolen, or I'd like to get revenge or something. Something along those lines. Nobody says I want to get revenge. Everybody says my account has been stolen by saying somebody else's name. For reasons beyond me, everybody calls me, they open accounts in other people's names with other people's photos. And my response is always no, but something that I'd like to mention is that to hack Facebook or Google, it's incredibly difficult, and you're more likely you need some organized crime gang to help you with that. You need the whole team to help you with that. It's not as easy or straightforward to do that. And if you find a vulnerability within Facebook or Google, then there's a reward system. So they will pay you 10K or more to inform them about that vulnerability. And I'm not gonna, when I'm saying me, I don't mean me, but that guy, that technical guy you're gonna call up to do that for you. If they know something is wrong with Facebook, they're not going to do you a favor and lose 10K or, you know, up to 50K. They're not going to lose that. But when somebody's Facebook gets hacked, it's not Facebook that got hacked, it's that person. So either that person got a link that they opened that they shouldn't have done. So the way that I would go on about hacking somebody is, you know, I will send you a link. You know, we said that about friends and so forth earlier. The other ways you could do that is, you know, you get a link that unsolicited. You did not ask for me to send you a link, but I'm sending you a link anyways. And you click on it. While the link seems very innocent, and it will show you something like a joke or something, but what it would do is in between that, by the time you get to that joke to read, I would have sent you to some other website, either downloaded something onto your machine, or would have logged your IP address so I can do further scanning on your computer, then redirect you to that job. So for you, when you see it, you think, oh, you know, everything is on board, nothing is wrong with this. But the truth is, in between those two, I was either able to inject something onto your machine or log your IP, definitely log your IP address, not or, but definitely log your IP address, and maybe have been able to inject something on your onto your machine. So if you did not ask for a link to be sent to you and somebody sends you something, just don't open it. You know, full stop. Don't open any links that you did not ask specifically to be sent to you. Same goes for emails. Don't open an email that you did not ask for. And even if you get an email, don't click on anything. More than often, you just hover over a link and it will open. So through JavaScript, you can basically, if the mouse hovers over it, you can the page to pop up and open and inject something into your machine and log your IP address. So if you get an email, even if you opened it, when you read the first 2 lines, if you realize this is not something you asked for and it's got nothing to do with you, just close it. Don't let the curiosity of, oh, let me see my cousin in Malta that's, you know, needs money, or my friend that, or yeah, you get that check from your dead relative that you never knew that you had and you became a millionaire. Don't read on. You know, it may be kind of interesting for you to read, but don't do it, because you're more likely to get something more than $1 million check from Malta. But yeah, so these are the things that, you know, you need to be aware of. But if you are into coming into the career, it is fun. It's really fun. You recommend it. You never get bored. You never be out. You will always be challenged. You will always have to be on your toes. As I said, a hacker needs one way to get in, but you need to think of every possible way that the hacker may get in for you to stop them. But always they need to find a way. And that's it. So I've spoken for about 40 minutes now. I'll let the audience take over, and if they've got any questions, I'm here for you.
Have we got any questions in the chat?
Let me see. Not there at the moment, but yeah, we can ask anyone if anyone's got a question. You can either unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can type the question. Let me just check on Facebook. Let's see. Yeah, we have a question.
Okay, so where do you draw the line between hacking and ethical hacking? So basically, anytime you access something that you shouldn't be accessing, then that's hacking. Anytime that you've not got permission to do something and you do it, then that's hacking. You know, I've got jobs where I've gone into a company where they've asked me to exploit it, and that's, to be honest. So this is another thing where companies don't understand. Sometimes they instead of saying like, you know, we want you to assess our security or do a vulnerability testing, they're saying we want you to exploit our system, and this is a whole two different things. One of them, I need to just find out what problems you have and tell you about what the problems are, and that's that. And when you come to me and say, I want you to exploit my system, that means go as aggressive as you can be. But obviously, you know, the right paperwork's in place. I get the right, I get the right signatures to say I've got the permission to do this. But more than often, they don't know what they're signing up for. They're saying we want you to exploit us, and that's not what they want. What they want you to do is do a vulnerability testing and see if they are vulnerable or not, rather than do hack the system. So anytime you have unauthorized access, then yeah, you've crossed that line, and you're in illegal territories, and you should not be there. Get out! Don't do it. So when it comes VPN tools, I mean, what a VPN tool does is basically mask your IP address, in essence. So when you visit different websites, they don't know where your original IP address is. And then also your service provider, your internet service provider, cannot monitor what you do, but the VPN service provider can monitor what do you do. So those are commercially available. They are relatively safe, depending if they keep logs. If they keep logs, then you don't really have privacy because they can always go back and see what you did. But those who promise not to keep logs, and there are no technical means right now. I mean, there are some technical means that they could use, but I'm not aware of any VPN provider, service provider, that implements this. So through trusted computing, you can provide technical measures to say, look, this is exactly how we operate, and this is what we do, and here is a technical measure for you to check. But they're not doing it now, and it's not something that's easily implemented, to be fair as well. So VPN tools, they are good. They are good security measures to in place to give it extra privacy and security at the same time. The CISP, it's very good credential to move up, and it's incredibly difficult to do, like incredibly difficult to get it. There are lots of training courses, to be honest, like SANS and Kali Linux guys. They do a lot of good job. They do a lot of good trainings and various things. But ultimately, it's down to the experience you get. I mean, nothing actually, doesn't matter how many qualifications you get in this particular field. In my experience, and I might be wrong, and somebody else may disagree with me on this one, who works in the same field with the same background as me and same position as me, but I think nothing replaces the experience you get and the hands-on the job. So more than often, it's not how many qualifications you have. Obviously, the qualifications do help, but more importantly, is like the hands-on experience that you get and the jobs that you take on as you move on. I met, I don't know him in person, but I met the chief security officer for Facebook in the US, in Black Hat conference. And at the time, I don't think he even was a graduate, but he had a lot of experience. And then later on, he moved on to establish HackerOne, which is a broker that basically, if you find a vulnerability within a particular website or a company, you tell them, then they go and negotiate how much they should get for you and how much that vulnerability is worth. So that's what they do, HackerOne. So the founder of that one, if I remember right, I don't think he had any university qualification yet. He was a genius when it came to computer security in particular. So yeah, the CISSP is incredibly hard to get and it's very beneficial to get, and it will definitely open doors for you. And it's very good if you got your eyes on that, go do it. It's really useful. And but even if you don't get that, don't be disheartened, because if you got the right experiences, that could be just as good.
Yeah, there was another question somebody's asking that sometimes you download some apps and that on your mobile and that, and eventually there's been some news as well about a certain company actually selling your data to different organizations, institutions. Where
That is a very sore point for me, because most of the health fitness trackers, they do take your data, and the way they do it is that instead of keeping it in your phone and giving you the option to give it back, to show it to you from your phone, initially they upload it to their web server, then from their web server send it back to your phone to show it to you, which means they by policy they take all your data. And if you think about fitness trackers in particular, it monitors everything. It monitors how much time you spend in the bathroom, it spends how much time you spend in bed, when your heart races in bed, when it is normal. So it basically knows almost everything about you, even more than what you know about yourself. And we share this data willingly. And we have the GDPR to give us some assurances to kind of protect us, but to be honest, it is enough. So yeah, so lots of these apps, they do lot of these apps, they do take your private data, and you just need to people are very careless, in my experience, that is, people are very careless with the data, and they just download some apps that they don't need, even though, and these apps are very privacy intrusive, and they share their information willingly without knowing the consequences, and take their privacy lightly, and that shouldn't be the case. So that's something it's very close to my heart. I take privacy very seriously, and it seems people don't do it. So,
yeah, we have a youngster here. I think he's asking, do you think coding can help in your knowledge of hacking?
of course, I mean, hacking is about coding. End of the day, to be a very good hacker, what you need to do is you need to know networking and coding like back of your hand. So you need to be a very good network engineer and good. And the other thing is to be a good hacker. And when I'm saying hacker here, by the way, I mean a white hat hacker. I do not mean black hat or a gray hat. I mean the good guys here. But to be a good hacker, you really need to read a lot. I mean, lots of people think it's all about fancy computers, black computer screens, green lines that you write, and it's all going to come to you, from I don't know where. But no, it's a lot of reading. Most of the time, even with coding, I would say you spend 20% of your time coding and 80% of the time reading. So it's all about reading. I mean, even if you go some of these conferences, Black Hat, DEF CON, that very big, and this is where most hackers gather. You'll realize soon that most of the big things that are done, the guys who come up with rooting Android phone or jailbreaking iPhone and so forth. I remember going to a couple of these seminars. That's what I'm mentioning. And you'll find out that they spend weeks and weeks and weeks reading about the specifications and the way how this works and so forth, and they spend about 20% of their time in trying to bash the code and come up with something. So reading is a huge part of hacking. You really need to enjoy reading about boring technical details and boring feature implementation APIs before you can actually hack anything. So yeah, so coding does help, and to become a good coder, you need to read a lot. You can't just go on watch, maybe some people can, but generally you can't just watch YouTube videos on how to code and become a good coder. You need to read a lot as well. Get some proper books, read them to get there. Okay, well, there are a lot of ways you can actually do that to practice hacking from home without. There are lots of websites that give you real life scenarios. They've with a VPN, you log into their system and then you do all the steps that you would do in a real life hacking, whereby you take over as an enterprise, you take over their mail system, then their web servers, and then their password and databases and so forth. So there are a lot of websites. If you just Google it, there's a lot of penetration testing websites whereby some of them are for free as well. You can go to them and try out your skills and enhance your skills to become a better hacker, to become a good white hat. I mean, whether you like it or not, a white hat hacker needs to practice. And these websites, they've got levels. I mean, one of the websites I can think of is Hack the Site. It's a very, very good website that deals with hacking passwords. So it's got levels that they've given you permission to do that. So when you get the job to do a penetration testing, or exploiting, this is what I meant, like penetration testing. When you get penetration testing job, you get permission to do that. So a website like Hack the Site gives you permission to do that. And it actually gives you feedback as well, saying, you are level this, you're going to level that, and you're going to the next level. So there are plenty of websites that allow you to do this. And the other way you can do it, and this is something that is very common. So say I have a target, so I get a job that I'm going to go to this company to do this. And I know as soon as I try with this company, their logging mechanism is going to log me out. So the way I usually do it personally, and this is how lots of people do it in my field, is that once I know what, say Professor Ahmed is asking me to do some, like to test his system, after I've done my reconnaissance and scanning, I realize what operating system he's running and what is the version and the patches that is applied to the system. Then I set up my own system locally here with in a virtual machine or an actual separate PC, and I copy what I understand to be his system, and I track it at home, and I try to hack it at home. Once I hack it at home and I'm successful, and I find how many ways so let's say there's 10 vulnerabilities within his PC that I can get into. So I try all of these at home on my own PC, but I have his permission, then I go and do that. So this is a very, very common practice whereby once you've got your target, you copy or clone that target locally based on your understanding of that target, and then you try it at home, and then through a virtual machine or through a separate PC. And then once you've done that, that's when you go and practice on the real thing. So this is how you can practice. Tools used for hacking is all over the place. I mean, the Nmap website, the Sec Tools, it's a very, very good website to go on from. They give you, it basically ranks them in terms of popularity as well. Backtrack, Kali Linux, is a very good operating system that brings together all the popular hacking tools and forensics tools, anything that has to do with computer security tools, basically, and it gathers them in one place. And as some new ones get introduced and they gain popularity, introduce them, and as some of them kind of lose popularity and lose community support, it kind of drops them on the system. So Kali Linux is a very good one to if you want, if you're not used to kind of Linux system, which you should be if you can want to get into hacking, then you should be using a Linux machine. Besides, why would you want to use anything else? But there are tools, there are websites that gives you a list of the tools, and Sec Tools is one of them. The Nmap FIDO it does a great job. Nmap is one of the good scanners out there, designed by FIDO, and he himself as well gives you a list of good tools. I can share it as a public website. So just type Sec Tools in Google and you should get it. Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions? Maybe we'll pass over to Professor Ahmed, then he can say the final remarks and we can maybe wrap up. Can you share?
Well, the thing about hacking, I mean, there's a lot to say, but one thing one of the ransomwares that I recently kind of I was lucky enough to be working with the team that dealt with it, and what they did, this is a crypto where basically they come and encrypt your data and they ask you for money. What these guys have done, like the attack is getting smarter. The attack is getting really smart in how to get money from you and how to make money and profit from these. It takes very little for somebody to be able to go and create some really malicious software now. You don't need to have great software knowledge to be able to do that nowadays, sadly. But one of the things that I found it intriguing, to be honest, is that attackers went into this website and they encrypted everything for about 3 months, and they left the encryption keys there to encrypt with and decrypt with. So that for 3 months, this website, it's a very popular website, encrypted everything and so forth. And after 3 months, they took out the decryption key. So all the data that was within their database for the past 3 months was absolutely useless because it was all encrypted and it was all gibberish. So attackers are patient, the good hackers, they don't come to your system and, take over your screen and write, I've hacked you. The good hackers come into your computer and they just sit there patiently waiting for some profit to be made or some data to be gained from you. So this is something that I kind of got to, I was in the team that they did this, and they didn't do this. They were trying to recover the data and handle this. It eventually went into negotiation with the guys who did it, and but the level of sophistication in attacks have changed. The level of commitment has changed, and the money made from these. I mean, in the first quarter, Zeus and those made humongous amount of money. You can. I mean, I can't just say the figures out of the top of my head. You can Google them and see how much these crypto ransomwares made in less than a quarter, like in 3 months' time, how much money they made. So and because there's money to be made, the level of sophistication is going higher, and the usual stuff that used to work in the past, like normal antiviruses and so forth, is no longer enough. You need a whole arsenal of things. Use education, write software, write updates, make sure that your supply chain and the other processes are in place, and so the other thing would be, so I'm just trying to kind of brainstorm what else I should be telling the users, like people here, to benefit from. If you have a process in place, be it for penetration testing, be it for vulnerability testing, be it for a backup system, be it for intruder detection, it's no good if you don't test it regularly. So if you have a backup, if you cannot restore that backup, then it is no good. So whatever processes you have in place, make sure they do work. Don't just take the word of the developers that they do work. Once a month, try to restore them. So this company that got hacked and their data was encrypted, if they had done sampling and they had kind of restored their backups onto some test benches to see if they work, they would have realized that there's a decryption key in there and the data has been encrypted, and they would have caught it much sooner. But people become complacent with these things and they don't do it. So if you run a company and you have a system in place, make sure that once a month dedicate 3 hours on Friday afternoon or Monday morning to make sure that these backups do work. And if you put them on a different system, or if there's an incident response, if the incident response is being practiced and people know exactly what to do if something goes wrong. It's no good to have things, documentations on processes that you have without having to basically run drills, or run drills once a month at least, I would say.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ranjbar. I think our
Thank you.
time's up. Thank you everyone for joining us today on Zoom, and also people who joined us on live streaming on Facebook. And thank you very much to our speaker, Dr. Ranjbar. It's his actually second webinar. Last week he was here speaking about life in Oxford University and how to get into Oxford, which was very, very useful beneficial for our youngsters who want to go and study in Oxford. And here he is again today speaking about cyber security, hacking, and how to protect yourself. And I'm sure a lot of people have found it very, very useful. So thank you very much. And this webinar it's a series of webinars that Young Professional Society, in collaboration with our partners, STEM Matters, who are based in the USA, we've been bringing to you on a weekly basis. We have like 2 webinars each weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So you can find all these webinars and recordings on our YouTube channel, the Young Professional Society, and also on the STEM Matters YouTube channel. And thank you very much for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you next week for our webinars. And once again, Dr. Ranjbar, who's graduate doctorate from University of Oxford, but I think currently now he's based in the Middle East. So I think it must be close to midnight there. So we'll let you go. Have a good night. Good night and stay safe. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye. Bye.